In almost every part of the world you'll find organized crime. From American gangs to the Italian mob to the Japanese Yakuza, these are often the subjects for video games and movies. I mean, you don't have to look any further than the Yakuza or GTA series to get your fix of crime time. These games all have one thing in common: you play as a criminal. And in 2012, there was a game that set out to explore a different side of the crime time genre. That game was Sleeping Dogs, a game in which you are the undercover cop Wei Shen, who infiltrates the Triad in Hong Kong in an effort to weaken it, and it explores the struggle Wei has trying not to blow his cover and still be a cop, with lots of twists and crime along the way. Sleeping Dogs then got a re-release for next-gen consoles in 2014, and that's the version I played when I bought this game on a whim. I'd heard nothing but good things about it, and while I'm normally skeptical when something gets that much praise, I can say that this game is amazing, and I recommend playing it yourself as unspoiled as possible, because it's so awesome. Anyways, to get more on topic, for this essay, I'm going to talk about a mildly detailed overview of the story, the characters, every single collectible, every single side mission, why this game's karaoke system is better than Yakuza Zero's, women, why Jackie Ma deserved better, and finally, the completionist experience. Prepare to dive into the world of crime in Hong Kong, because it's crime time. This game begins with the HKPD on a stakeout on the docks. A man is approaching there, and two lads approach. One of them is a random thug, the other is undercover cop Wei Shen. A drug deal occurs and is going well until a random security guy at the docks decides to be a hero, and the rando guy goes apeshit with a butcher's knife. The two crime boys flee the scene and you're introduced to the free run mechanics of the game. You can do some fun parkour type things, and trust me, you'll be doing this a lot throughout the game. So get used to mashing the A button to jump stuff and move fast. Anyways, run till you get caught, get arrested, and then once you wake up, you're in jail. Afterwards, you get a title card and an introduction to your old friend Jackie Ma, along with a ton of other exposition, and yeah. As is revealed, Wei was born in Hong Kong before moving to California as a younger guy. He had a sister, but she died of a drug overdose. He and Jackie used to be in the Water Street Gang, and all that fun stuff before Jackie gets set free on parole, something like that anyway. So you get called into an interrogation, sit and laugh at the cops trying to interrogate you while not blowing your cover, wait until Superintendent Pendrew comes in, turn off the camera, and talk about the job you're undertaking. This is where it's revealed to you that you're a cop in the story of the game. Super Nintendo Pendrew over here debriefs you about how you're the best candidate for the job, that Jackie is your best way in, and all that jazz. Things you would have figured out upon talking to Jackie. Anyways, get introduced to your handler Raymond. He's an asshole for no reason and doesn't trust you, and so you get out of prison and begin the game. Stroll out into the streets and meet up with Jackie, and start to work your way into the Triad. Walk your way to the Golden Koi, but make a stop along the way so Jackie can flirt with this lady, and then get promptly beaten up by a rival gang, and this throws you into the combat tutorial. There's two halves of combat in this game, and this is the first and most fun half. Kung Fu! The melee combat in this game is a very in-depth and very fun kung fu system, full of grabs, kicks, punches, counters, and more. And god, it's so much fun. Anyways, beat the shit out of the dudes, get Jackie off the ground, and make your way to the Golden Koi. Once in the restaurant, go upstairs and meet Winston Chu, a Red Bull and your new boss. You need to earn his trust by doing some assorted crime time activities, from extortion in the night market, to hunting a dude in debt, to stealing fake watches from an enemy group, to trying to help take over a bus racket. There's a lot of these kind of missions throughout, so expect the exact crime time details to be minimal. I forgot to mention that you do get arrested and introduced to Detective Tang after the debater chase escapades, and she doesn't particularly matter during the events of the story, but she does matter later on. Most of the crimes are part of a larger story involving Winston and another Red Bull named Dog Eyes fighting in several turf wars, so keep this in mind. After doing the minibus adventure, you get a quest to help this random American girl find this local dojo. Take her around the city, find the Kung Fu Academy, reunite with your old teacher, and learn about 12 very important collectibles scattered around Hong Kong. These 12 collectibles are the teacher's 12 jade statues, with each one working as a currency to learn a new move for your combat. But this isn't important to the story, so it shall be ignored for now. Anyways, finish your first date and get back into the swing of things by heading to the club. Ah, Club Bam Bam. one of the most fun locations in the game for a reason we'll be discussing later, but this mission is a nice fun one that you use to cause some fun chaos, because you're hunting down this dude named Benny, who's betraying Winston, and you've been sent to teach him a lesson. You gotta infiltrate your way into the VIP area, and to do this, you need to get the attention of a hostess and do a little karaoke. Win the minigame, head upstairs, Benny goes, "What in the goddamn?" And it's beatdown time! Fight through the club, teach Benny a lesson, and then put crime time on hold because you have to work a case and get a drug dealer arrested in order to continue the story. After the arrest, Wei heads back to the Golden Koi for his next job, only to be slammed in a table and questioned at gunpoint. Smooth talk your way out, then you gotta bug that back room so the cops can listen in. Retrieve the tech, get your bag stolen by some dude, chase him down, beat him up, take your stuff to the back room, do the deed, lockpick, and escape into the night. Your next mission involves retrieving a gun from that hostess, and then meeting up with Super Nintendo Pinjuru, and learning the second half of the combat gun! Learn to shoot from cover, blind fire, shoot in general, etc., in a crime scene. Pinjuru then takes the gun, which happens to belong to a known criminal, and shoots the guy in a car, and frames the owner of that gun for murder. Wei copes with this, and life goes on. Dog Eyes launches an attack on the Golden Koi, and so after fighting through the goons using your newly acquired gun skills, you'll launch an assault on Dog Eyes' drug warehouse. Take over the warehouse and kidnap Dog Eyes' Walter White Hong Konger equivalent. Glazed ham note here, Hong Konger is one of the many terms to identify someone from Hong Kong. It sounds fake, but I swear all of the research I've done for this essay says this is a legitimate term, so I shall accept this and use it accordingly. Anyway, this is Wei's idea to pay off. Whoopses. I really messed that up. I'm so sorry, Mr. the Editor. Wei had the idea to save Walter White bootleg here, and it pays off when the next major event is Uncle Po, the current Sun On Yee chairman, when he calls Winston into his office to discuss the fact that one of his most profitable businesses just exploded into a giant fireball. And since you saved the Walter White bootleg, Winston doesn't die, and you gain some respect. And after you get out of that meeting, you get sent to help a man named Roland collect from some random debtor, as Uncle Po seems to really trust you and your crime time skills. Moving on, do your thing, collect the money, and keep trucking through the crimes. I forgot to mention that Winston is getting married soon, and so, as his right-hand man, are sent to help his bride-to-be secure wedding goods in the mission Bride-to-Be. Do your normal car shootout activities, sneak into a temple to secure a flower that can only be found there, fight some monks, secure the cake that the enemy triad 18K tried to steal, your normal wedding preparations. Then, if you're even vaguely aware of crime movie cliches, you'll know that a wedding only means one thing. It's gonna be a massacre. So, day of, Jackie and Wei suit up, head to the wedding, and are preparing to have a good time when suddenly a bomb goes off in the building and all the doors are locked. Wei and Jackie were outside carrying the chairman's favorite wine into the venue when the explosion happened, and so Wei has to climb his way into the fray and then violently murder the enemy triad in a very long shootout. So you fight your way through, secure the knowledge that Winston and his bride were gunned down in the chaos, leave them among the corpses, and go to secure Uncle Po, who's been shot. The rest of the mission involves you needing to escort Uncle Po to the hospital, and of course you make it. And as you're making your way there, you notice a particularly ugly member of 18K named Johnny Ratface, and you make note of this for later. Get Uncle Po to the hospital and walk out and cope with the events that just happened in front of you. What does a distraught mother do after her son has just been gunned down during his own wedding? She seeks revenge. And the next mission is Wei securing Mr. Ratface and taking him to the Golden Koi for Miss Chu to take her revenge. Upon delivering the deadest of meat to Miss Chu, she then violently tortures him with a butcher's knife as Wei exits the room to do more triad and cop things. The next mission doesn't really matter, it's mostly just the start of the debate over who the next boss of Winston's territory is, and that boss is you, because you're the most qualified according to Uncle Po. That's the only part that matters for the next two missions. And so we skip for the next important one, which is Wei hunting down Dog Eyes to enact the last part of Miss Chu's revenge. As is revealed, Dog Eyes ordered the hit at the wedding, And so Wei takes this chance to avenge not just Winston, but also his sister, who I've never mentioned, because she died of a heroin overdose before the game started. Fight through the warehouse, beat the ever-loving shit out of Dog Eyes, do a boat chase to prevent him from escaping, and then capture him, drive him to the Golden Koi, so Miss Chu can avenge her son. She offers Dog Eyes some soup, which he tries to refuse, and so she forces him to eat the soup. This soup is made of what remains of Johnny Ratface, and the fact that Miss Chu literally turns a man into soup and feeds him to his boss is such an awesome power play that I have to mention it. Anyways, Miss Chu butchers Dog Eyes, and it's so satisfying to watch. After this, you have a meeting with Uncle Po, and you've been selected to become a proper Red Pole, which means you're required to go off some poor bitch, go hitman the guy, get initiated, and keep on moving. Pull off a dock heist, and then get into a massive shootout in the hospital when 18K tries to murder Uncle Po. Successfully defend the chairman, and then do some other random shit involving this American rapper, the club, and karaoke. Then some more things involving women, going fast, and street racing. Side note, you can go on a date with one of the girls later on, and your reward is some car sex! A la Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. Although, that's side content we'll cover later. Anyways, I forgot to mention that the fat bastard Red Pole, Tuchin, was selected to be the acting chairman, and this is a problem. So you conspire with the Red Pole Broken Nose Jiang? Yeah, Jiang, to make him unsuited to be the chairman so she can take over. Break into his house, smash some pots, do some other wacky and uncharacteristic things, and get out undetected and move on. As it was revealed, Uncle Po died in the hospital at some point, so you've got a funeral to go to soon. Blah blah blah, more plot things happen, and most importantly, you break into an apartment, collect a flash drive, go to a rendezvous point, and give the data to Pinjuru, and then you're relieved from the case, for some reason. And Wei, being a cop who's seen other cop movies, goes full on loose cannon, and keeps on his mission anyways. Attend the funeral, gun down more enemy triads after Pinjuru arrests the guy you helped incriminate with the flash drive, and then he leaves you to die. After surviving the funeral, you engage in even more shootouts in your territory, keep fighting, soldier. You are almost done. During this time, Jackie was kidnapped and you gotta rescue him. Fight, gun down, and torture enemy triads to save your best friend. And all seems well. Jackie is thinking about dropping his affiliation with the triad and leaving into a normal life. But he tells you that he'll see how he feels in the morning. And since this is a crime game, I should have seen it coming when Wei finds Jackie strung up in an alleyway with his stomach cut open and his guts exposed. As Wei is breaking down, he gets kidnapped and tortured brutally for being an undercover cop, because you've been found out. You're broken and defeated, physically beaten and tortured, but Wei carries on and engages in extreme violence and fights his way to freedom. Fight your way through this bathhouse room, murder your captors, and go to get your revenge on Big Smile Lee, the Red Pole who's trying to take over the entire Sun On Yee. Your final mission is to murder the man, and so you make your way to the docks to get your revenge. Make sure the Sun On Yee falls in the hands of Jiang, as she isn't as much of a threat to Hong Kong or the HKPD as Big Smile Lee is, and avenge Jackie. You gun your way through this restaurant, and you finally catch up to Mr. Lee. Chase him down, get shot, keep chasing him, and get to the final arena. You punch the hell out of him, and then you shove that sumbitch into a and turn him into a fine red paste. The mission ends with the police coming down to the docks, collecting Wei and setting him free of his undercover cop duties after having gone above and beyond in weakening the Sun On Yee and taking down so many of the enemies. Civil War is over, your job is done. Except it isn't. See, Pinjuru has been promoted to Interpol, and he's now immune to any accusation Wei could throw at him. Damn, it seems like the corrupt cops win. Or do they? Wei comes into possession of video evidence of Pinjuru murdering Uncle Po, and this is enough to strip him of his protections, and he's placed into HKPD custody. We fade into the interrogation room from the start of the game, and we see Pinjuru cuffed to the table. Detective Wei Shin walks into the room and turns off the camera. He then uses his new powers to throw him into prison, where he'll likely die within an hour or two after entering. Cause, he kinda has a lot of enemies in there. Wei gets to rub his success in former Super Nintendo Chalmers' face, and he exits the room, which leaves poor Pinjuru to deal with the consequences of his actions. The last scene is Wei talking to Detective Tang about what's next for him, and we see the new chairwoman, Miss Jiang, talking to a few of the Red Bulls and says that despite being an undercover cop, Wei is allowed to live for showing loyalty and helping her take over. And with that, that's the story. Wei successfully did his job, went far and above the expectations, and truly shook up a crime empire. Upon finishing the story, you're allowed to wander around the city, wrap things up, and it means that nevertheless, it's still crime time. Now, I know this section was a bit scatterbrained, this recording even is a bit scatterbrained, and it's not the most in-depth compared to other things I've talked about, and that's for good reason. I can describe the events of a cop drama movie, but in doing that I skip over the fact that the dialogue and character interactions are the bulk of the experience. This is the overall flaw in a review of any kind, which is often why I recommend that you experience said media for yourself beforehand. And in the case of this game, yeah, I recommended actually playing it at the start of this video, because so much of this game's enjoyability relies on the characters and your interactions with them that I can't repeat here. As such, I gave you a generally disjointed overview of the story, and as disjointed as it feels to me, I feel like I can't do it justice in any format, but I must try anyway. Whatever, man, I'm not here to deconstruct the inherent problems with reviews, and so I'll get back to the review. As is almost always the case in the things I cover, the characters are a focal point for me because they make up a bulk of the experience, and this game has some good characters in spades. From good random side characters to good villains to good main characters, it's all very strong, and I'm going to dive into the crime time-induced insanity, so buckle up. I have to mention my boy Calvin. This man is schizophrenic, and his involvement in side content is often tied to him committing a crime, and then you end up helping him escape the police. This happens many times, and each time the crimes escalate. It starts off normal with just a casual sucker punch, then it escalates to murder, then him exploding a store full of people with a grenade launcher, and all of this on the way to him blowing up all of the police cars at a station at the same time. Holy shit, Calvin's character arc is hilarious, despite how repetitive his missions are. They're so funny. I mean, I know crime is bad, but Calvin's acts of borderline are so funny to me that he's among the best characters in this game. Old Salty Crab is another highlight of the assorted weirdos here. He's not as Project Mayhem as Calvin is, but he's an old guy who acts as Jiang's chauffeur. He accompanies Wei on the mission at Tu Chin's house, and his bizarre dialogue throughout that mission is so funny to me. The fact that this man pulls his crotch climbing a fence is great, and there's some wonderfully dumb exchange of, wow, you're pretty and talented. What? I said you're pretty talented. And that's all he really does. It's wonderfully goofy, and it's the proper amount of dumb to make this game achieve the balance of drama and comedy that it has. I have to compare this game to Yakuza 0, which is very similar, except that game is a lot more goofy than this. But that's for later, or something. And now, it's villain time! So I'm going to rapid fire these, because I got a lot to cover here, and I covered a lot of them actually in my story recap. So here we go. Sonny Wu is the guy who gets arrested at the funeral. He's the sleaziest dude in the game, as he represents the sexual side of Triad business. Literally, he runs the entirety of film production in Hong Kong, both adult film and general film, and all that implies. Oh yeah, he also runs the prostitution and trafficking rings too, so all the really awful crimes that the Triad engages in. I'll admit, they captured his awful nature very well while keeping his Hollywood executive personality at the forefront, and they make him so sleazy while never showing his crimes on screen for the better of the game, which is a really good choice. Don't show those kind of crimes. Just imply. Jiang is interesting because she wants to shake up the traditional business exploits of the Triad, which should be commended. However, she isn't wacky or goofy, so I don't particularly care. Sure, she does spare Wei despite the fact that he logically should have been executed for his betrayal, but I don't care, so moving on. Tu Chin was funny because I got to troll him and cause him severe grief by doing dumb things like moving a piano. It's silly, it's goofy, it's wacky, and he contrasts the serious tone well. Or something. As I was writing this, it was 2:28 a.m. EST, and I really needed to go to bed. And while there's a lot more I could have talked about, most of the things I have to talk about are for later. So don't worry, Jackie'll get his own section. And also don't worry, I was going to bed then, and it's been several hours of writing at that point, and I'll have come back later. And guess what? I did. You're hearing it now. Wow, that's how time works. So there's a lot of random shit to pick up in this game. From shrines to pray at to those 12 statues I mentioned earlier, they generally serve a purpose despite being a pain in the ass to collect, as they're scattered around the map and there's way too many things in some areas and not enough in others. Regardless, I shall break it down. First on the block, those funny little statues. There's 12 of them in the game, with 2 of them being story locked, and it makes sense because each statue unlocks a new move to learn at the dojo. Collect the first 12 and purchase the normal upgrades. Then use the final statue to unlock the singular best move in the entire game, the Dim Mak. This advanced counter can take most enemies to half health, and it's easy to do. Just hit the grapple and counter buttons at the same time. Get this move as soon as you possibly can. Even the other upgrades work to do heavy damage and make combat a lot more interesting and combo based, and it's so much fun and worth a lot. The next thing you'll be hunting down are the ungodly amount of lockboxes there are scattered throughout Hong Kong. So these lockboxes often only contain money or a weapon, but there's some that offer some more fun things, like the iconic Bruce Lee yellow tracksuit or a suit that references Reservoir Dogs. But these boxes mostly exist as the biggest pain in the ass you could ever encounter. They take the urban exploration part of the other collectibles and make it dumber by having a really dumb safe cracking minigame for some of them. It's just more tedious things to grab with little to no reward, unless you need the cash, but more often than not, you won't need to worry about your money supply. Another common collectible is the Health Shrine. There's like 50 of these things, which results in doubling your health upon collecting all of them, and they're often more out in the open, and the exploration to find them is much easier than the lockboxes, and the reward is much better. And with that, that's the collectibles you have to physically hunt down. There are technically more than just those, and I guess I'll mention them here. There are a metric ton of clothes to buy, from basic shirts and pants to being able to wear Agent 47's suit or dress like that guy who commits acts of extreme violence in order to set free the country of Medici. These are fun and can maybe change the way you play with certain bonuses. There's also the cars, which are a pain to buy, not because of the money, but because you can't buy all of them in one move, and it's a small thing I have a problem with. That should conclude all of the items and stuff you'll have to hunt down, but we're far from over because we're on to the events, favors, and other such experience quest stuff. This is a story all about how I helped random people on the streets of Hong Kong for a couple of dollars and half a ham sandwich. As I mentioned with Calvin and his escalating explosive crime time extravaganza, there are parts of these favor quests, and as such you should expect a lot of similar missions that are all repetitive and annoying, so let's get to it. There's these favors where you stop a hit and run, where you stop shoplifters, where you get robbed and have to chase down people to recover your money, and ones where you have to do other random things. The few side missions that aren't repetitive include the date missions, which are very fun, but say it with me now, we'll get to those later! There are genuinely a few unique missions. One involves you failing at karaoke, and a mission that hurt my soul, in order to help a dude with his lady. One involves you doing photography to help a lady design some shirts, and there's an entire storyline involving a doctor and his super ultra illegal machine gun sports car, TM. The illegal car is one of my favorite storylines in the game, and the car is so awesome that it makes whipping around the streets of Hong Kong just that much cooler. Anyways, there's so much to do, so much to see, so let's get down the back streets and see lots of murder, drug deals, robberies, hostage situations, and more in the cop jobs. Cop jobs, as the game calls the cop missions in a baffling name that makes me feel dirty, are a more action-filled version of the favors. These missions often involve you donning some SWAT gear and just going to town on some punks, and they're pretty satisfying in all honesty. The drug busts are a 3-part mission, and they also double as yet another collectible, the cameras. These missions involve you beating the shit out of some thugs, then locating and hacking a nearby camera, and finally returning to your apartment, using the TV, and calling in some nearby officers to arrest the dealer. I like these. I don't know why collecting the 23 cameras was fun, but there was something about the sheer joy of watching the police just tackle a clueless drug dealer that just hits different. The cases are technically a part of the story, and I like the variety in missions, and they really made me want to replay LA Noire because the detective aspects were great, and I have a soft spot for that cop game. I think that concludes the cop jobs, and so it's time to go fast. Speed. I am speed. I, of course, am talking about the street races that hurt me on an emotional level due to one technical issue in the version of the game I played. See, there isn't much to say about the races. There's 4 speed classes for the 2 types of vehicles, and there are races for each of them. And they're all nice and simple. There is one problem. I played the game on an Xbox Series X, and due to whatever mistake there is in the achievement coding, I never got the Way of the Road achievement, which is an achievement for winning every single race. This achievement never unlocked, despite the fact that the in-game stat counter recognized that I did everything. And I even got the Chief Inspector achievement, which recognizes that I did all the races. In short, I learned a valuable lesson. There is no Easter Bunny, there is no Tooth Fairy, and there is no fortune and glory, kid. Alright, look. I love Yakuza 0 as much as everyone else does, but there's also a reason I still haven't completed that game. Among the many reasons, there's too many things to do in that game, and the karaoke specifically drives me insane. Don't get me wrong, I love 24-Hour Cinderella and Baka Mitai and Judgment, but dear lord does the karaoke system make me want to implode. But we'll get there. The crucial problem I have with that game's rhythms game system is that I hate the QuickTime system for karaoke in Yakuza 0. And the Sleeping Dogs system is based off more of a positioning a cursor around a fretboard, is a massive improvement that made completing it so much better. But let's get back to the point, yeah? So Yakuza 0 has an entirely original soundtrack for its karaoke, and that's a massive plus. Because, dear God, they knocked it out of the park with it. I mean, just go and listen to 24-Hour Cinderella without having a good time. It's impossible. But, alas, the system you have to play it through is kind of like getting kicked in the stomach if you're an RPG fan who is not a rhythm game fan. I love your original soundtrack, but I can only listen to 3x Shine so many times while trying to get a 90+%. Seriously, this one mechanic, among others, is the reason I still haven't completed Yakuza 0. Wait a minute, why am I talking about a completely different game? This isn't Sleeping Dogs. On the rails again, Sleeping Dogs' karaoke system is awesome. The licensed soundtrack is so good. You start off basic with I Fought the Law by The Clash, and you'll eventually unlock the other 8 songs that include Girls Just Wanna Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper, Hit Me With Your Best Shot by Pat Benatar, and the 80s classic Take On Me by your favorite and mine, Ninja Sex Party. This is how you do the karaoke minigame that is required for 100% completion. It's simple, it's easy to grasp, and it's satisfying to play. I enjoyed playing this one. I even managed to get a perfect score on I Fought the Law by complete accident when I played it for fun. All in all, when you add a mini game like this in a game that's not inherently a rhythm game, you should have a system that doesn't require you to be very good at rhythm games to even approach a 90%. Because this game I did not purchase to complete as a rhythm game, I purchased it as an RPG that just happens to have a rhythm game system in it. You know, most crime time media, regardless of which side of the law it is, has some degree of romance. Look no further than any noir film cliches you can think of, because those cliches came from somewhere. And so, Wei is on both sides of the law, and you can go on a date with 4 different women, which results in some fun character interactions and collectibles appearing on your map. So allow me to go down the list and talk about the ladies in order of their introduction in the game. Amanda, the American tourist girl. She's fun, I like her personality, and her date involving photography speaks to me and the stereotypes these essays have associated with them. Her dialogue is fun, I like the voice actress's performance, and she's one of the better girls in the game. Most of them don't get brought up too much, but hey, it is what it is. Wei does his gentleman photography date and takes her back to her apartment, and I think you know where this is going. After you date her, all of the health shrines appear on your map, so it pays off. It's worth doing. Tiffany, the karaoke hostess. She's meh. She has a whole quest where she accused me of cheating on her, so she kinda cheats on me before breaking up. I didn't realize that we were dating, cause that wasn't clear at all, so imagine how horribly confused I was when this happened. Her date involves some karaoke and whatnot, and honestly, I don't care. She was there, I wasn't. Also, according to the wiki, you actually are able to kill her, and she's the only girlfriend you're allowed to murder. So that's nice? Oh yeah, her date reveals all 12 Jade statues on your map. Not Ping. She's my fave. There's something about the 2000s alt-tech girl aesthetic that speaks to me, and her date involving hacking into cameras for fun, and it's actually really fun. Her personality and is great. Wow, I'm just really janking everything up. Her date involves hacking into cameras for fun, and it's great. Her personality is also great, and I'm sad that she wasn't involved in the game more. But, and as I say this, as it's very important, she is heavily involved with the Halloween DLC, as I'll call it, which is pretty cool. Her date reveals the camera locations, which surprises no one. I'd say more, but really most of this relies on experience the game, and yeah. Ilyana? Yeah, Ilyana, the Russian hostess. She's like Amanda mixed with Tiffany, and she's awesome. Her date is just a parkour foot race that ends with Wei getting laid, and surprisingly, the story uses her more later on, which is cool. She becomes an integral part in the final case because you use her to help recover a ton of women from being trafficked. She's fun, has a Russian accent and all that. She's cool, her date was fun, all that jazz. Her date, of course, reveals all of the lockboxes onto your map, and now we're on to the final girl mentioned. Sandra. I mentioned her earlier because she's the blandest of the girls. Her date involves you unlocking special races where you gotta go fast, and the date ends with the previously mentioned car sex! That's all, folks. Those are the women and the last of the real side content, and so I shall derail this entire essay one last time before I wrap things up. Jackie Ma is Wei's best friend, and as such, he plays the role of the lovable side character who gets violently murdered in the third act, which causes the hero to go on a revenge-fueled rampage. I honestly hate that they rely on this, because the impact of letting Jackie live would be much better. As was shown in the game, after he gets rescued, he's contemplating all of his choices, and he considered just leaving the Triad to turn his life around. He could have had a redemption arc, and it would have been great to see him switch sides and set up a sequel, where he and Wei are buddy cops. Or you could have him realize that he has no way out, and thus he rises the rank of the Triad, forcing Wei to have to take him down in a heartbreaking scene where Wei has to shoot his best friend in order to do the right thing. You know, you could do 1,000 things with his character if you let him live, but alas, he wasn't allowed to. It's almost a cliche at this point for a Glazed Ham essay to talk about one side character in their own, or one character in their own highlighted section, and I shall give into temptation and provide more evidence for my cliches. So Jackie Ma, he's kind of a loser. I mean, his second scene in the game is him simultaneously failing with women and getting the shit kicked out of him, and it's hilarious. I really like Jackie. He's funny, and his missions of stealing random things is often very fun and showcases the dynamic between him and Wei, and you genuinely believe their friendship is as strong as it is, and it really makes the finale so much more satisfying because you're not just fulfilling your mission, you're also getting revenge for the boy who deserved better. Sleeping Dogs is a wonderful game. After playing the game to completion, I can say it deserves all the praise it's gotten over the years, and the game is so monumentally wonderful that I genuinely can't recommend it enough to anybody. To those who love a good story-based game, to those who just want a fun action game, it's really good. If you're gonna play it, complete it. You'll enjoy it so much. And as such, I give this game my final rating of 7.5 life sentences out of 10. There's so much to do and so much to see, and the world of the game is so visually rich and unique that I need you to play this game. You're gonna love it if you give it a chance. Anyways, my name is A Leg of Glazed Ham, and thank you for listening to my report on crime time in Hong Kong. Thanks again, and good night.